Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, neighbors in this beautiful, trembling world, we gather here not only in body but in spirit, not merely in a room but in the sacred space of shared intention. For what is more powerful than the will to become better? What is more urgent than the act of becoming whole? We stand at the threshold of ourselves, each of us burdened with histories, dreams, disappointments, and possibilities, and we are called, yes, called, to rise, to reach, and to refine. This is not a sermon, it is a reckoning with the truth that who we are today may not be enough for who we must become tomorrow, and that's all right, because evolution is not shameful, change is not betrayal, it is in fact the most intimate act of self-respect. Now, I won't offer you platitudes, nor hand you the syrup of soft comfort. This is a day for honesty, and so, I offer you 7 behaviors, 7 thorns dressed as flowers, that we must gently but firmly pluck from the garden of our lives. Not because you are not good, but because you can be greater. Not because you are flawed, but because your flaws do not deserve to drive your destiny. The first behavior, insidious and polished like glass, is the habit of comparison. Oh yes, comparison. That ancient thief of joy. It is the slow poison that sips at the well of our confidence. It is the mirror that distorts rather than reflects. In this world of curated images and carefully constructed stories, we forget that most people only show their victories, not their battles. But we compare our backstage to their highlight reels. We scroll, we watch, we ache. But let me tell you this, you were not born to be a replica. You were carved, molded, whispered into existence by forces older than time itself. Your worth is not determined by their timeline. Your beauty is not dimmed by their light. You are not behind, you are becoming. The second behavior, just as dangerous, is the tendency to self-sabotage. We build walls around opportunities and call it humility. We excuse our fear and call it prudence. We delay our purpose and call it preparation. But how often have you turned away from the door that was already open? How often have you silenced your own name before others could speak it? You see, sometimes we are not afraid of failure. We are afraid of the audacity of success. But if you do not stand for yourself, who will rise in your absence? If you keep dimming your flame, how will others find their way through the darkness? The world does not benefit from your smallness. It hungers for your fullness. The third behavior we must abandon is the refusal to forgive, not just others but ourselves. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not the invitation of harm. No, forgiveness is the liberation of the heart. When we cling to grudges, we chain ourselves to the past. When we refuse to forgive ourselves, we freeze in time, unable to move forward. Let me say it plain, you cannot punish yourself into purity. You cannot hate yourself into healing. You are allowed to begin again. You are allowed to evolve past your former self. You are allowed to be both a lesson and a light. Next, the fourth behavior, procrastination, cloaked in productivity. We make to-do lists, we plan, we buy tools, we talk about the work, but we do not begin. There's always tomorrow, we say. But tomorrow is a ghost that never materializes. Perfectionism, that high-sounding devil, convinces us that unless we can do it flawlessly, we should not do it at all. But excellence is not born of delay, it is born of doing. It is forged in motion. Every masterpiece began as a mess. Every symphony began as noise. So do not wait until you feel ready. Begin while you are still trembling. Begin while you are still unsure. Progress is not perfection, it is persistence. The fifth behavior, sharp and subtle, is the need for external validation. We stretch our necks to catch applause. We tailor our truths for approval. We crave the nod, the like, the compliment, the click. But no amount of recognition will fill a soul that is empty of self-love. You must know who you are when no one is watching. You must cherish your voice even when it trembles. You must stand by your principles even when they are unpopular. For popularity is fleeting, but integrity is eternal. Build your worth on the foundation of your values, not the shifting sands of opinion. Now comes the sixth behavior, the avoidance of discomfort. We flee from the difficult conversation. We avoid the painful truth. We numb ourselves with distraction, addiction, busyness. But discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the midwife of growth. No great transformation has ever occurred without pressure. Caterpillars must struggle to become butterflies. Seeds must crack open in the dark. You must be willing to sit in your growing pains. You must let the heat refine you, not destroy you. Discomfort teaches us who we are and who we must become. Embrace it, not as punishment, but as preparation. And finally, the seventh behavior, the erosion of gratitude. When we forget to see the small miracles, when we become entitled to the air in our lungs, when we measure abundance only in dollars and likes, we lose the richness of life. Gratitude is not naive. It is revolutionary. It turns scarcity into sufficiency. It turns suffering into strength. Gratitude does not mean denying pain. It means recognizing beauty even in brokenness. When you wake, give thanks. When you fall, give thanks. When you rise again, give thanks. Gratitude is the soil from which joy and resilience both grow. So here we are face to face with our reflection, not as critics but as caretakers. Let us choose to water our best selves. Let us prune away these 7 behaviors, not out of shame but out of self-respect. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not too tired. You are exactly where your healing begins. The road to a better you is not paved with grand gestures. It is carved one choice at a time, and each of these choices is a quiet revolution. I will not pretend that transformation is easy. It is not. It is messy. It is lonely. It is often misunderstood. But it is worth it. You will lose things. Habits, relationships, illusions. But you will find something deeper, your voice, your peace, your purpose. Do not wait for the world to give you permission. Give it to yourself. Do not wait for the perfect moment. This is the moment. This trembling, imperfect. Now. And so I leave you with this not as a command, but as an offering. Strip away what no longer serves you. Set it down. Bless it. Let it go. You do not need to carry that weight anymore. You do not need to wear those behaviors like a second skin. You are allowed to outgrow your former self. You are allowed to surprise even yourself. The journey to a better you begins not with reinvention, but with remembrance. Remember who you were before fear took root. Remember who you dreamed you could be, before the world told you otherwise. There is power in that remembering. There is healing in that becoming. And there is hope in this very room, in the thrum of your heartbeat, in the breath you just took. Yes, you. You are hope incarnate. You are the story still being written. So go on. Step boldly. Live truthfully. Love fully. And never forget, who you are becoming is more powerful than who you've been. Let the becoming begin. And as we stand in this sacred exchange of breath and intention, let us continue to stretch the sinews of our understanding, and pull at the fibers of who we have allowed ourselves to be. You see, the journey to a better you is not linear. It winds and bends. It circles back. It pauses at thresholds, waiting for courage to catch up with desire. And while the world may tempt you with shortcuts, there are no express lanes to authenticity. You must walk every mile of your own becoming. There is no substitute for the earned wisdom that comes from falling down, and choosing again and again, to rise with a deeper grace. There are no borrowed revelations, no second-hand awakenings. You must live it, not just know it. That is the great and sacred labor of becoming whole. And let us speak now of the world that meets us each morning with noise. The headlines, the horn blasts, the inbox alerts. It is easy, so easy to become overwhelmed, to become numb, to fold inwards under the weight of 100 unanswered demands. But in that swirl of chaos, you must still find your stillness. You must choose, even in small moments, to be present, because presence is power. It is not passive. It is the fierce insistence on noticing the way your child's laughter lifts the ceiling, the way the sun forgives every storm, the way your own breath testifies that you are still here. When we lose presence, we lose perspective. We begin to react instead of respond. We trade purpose for performance. But to be a better you, you must reclaim your agency. Choose when to speak. Choose when to listen. Choose when to rest. Life is not something that simply happens to you. It is something you co-create with every deliberate breath, every conscious decision to show up with integrity. There will be those who do not understand your transformation. They may mock your discipline, misread your boundaries, misunderstand your silence. But do not explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Do not shrink to soothe their discomfort. You are not responsible for managing their reaction to your healing. You owe no one an apology for becoming better. And yes, you may have to walk alone for a time. There is a wilderness between who you were and who you are becoming. But you are not lost, you are being found. And in that solitude you will hear your own voice again. You will meet your own reflection not as a stranger but as a sovereign being, worthy of reverence. What a gift it is to finally recognize yourself. And still the world needs you. Not the edited, polished version but the raw, real, rising you. The one who knows what it means to hurt and still hope. The one who knows that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the birthplace of intimacy, creativity and courage. When you step into your truth, you do not just liberate yourself. You light a path for others to follow. You become a mirror in which others can see their own possibility. So do not hide your healing. Let it shine through your scars. Let it echo in your laughter. Let it inform your leadership. The world is not in need of more perfection. It is starving for authenticity. There will be days when doubt speaks louder than truth. Days when your old patterns come dressed as comfort. Days when change feels like grief. On those days, be gentle with yourself. Do not confuse a detour with a defeat. Growth is not always visible. Sometimes it is the quiet refusal to give up. Sometimes it is the moment you speak kindly to yourself when no one else is listening. Sometimes it is simply getting out of bed when despair says otherwise. Honor those small victories. They are not small at all. They are the foundation on which all great change is built. We must also learn to unlearn. For some of the behaviors we cling to were taught to us by those who themselves were hurting. We inherited fears, absorbed limiting beliefs, adopted stories that never belonged to us. And now we are tasked with breaking those cycles, not just for ourselves, but for the generations to come. That is no small thing. It is spiritual labor. It is legacy work. When you choose to heal, you do so not only for yourself, but for every child yet unborn, for every ancestor who never had the chance. Your healing echoes backward and forward in time. That is the immensity of your becoming. So ask yourself, with tenderness and honesty, what do I need to release? What behavior have I worn like armor, though it weighs me down? What story have I told myself that no longer serves me? The answers may not come all at once, and that's all right. Ask again. Sit with the question. Let silence speak. Let your spirit respond. For in that asking is where growth begins. And if you are a leader, a teacher, a parent, a guide, understand that your personal transformation has communal impact. The way you treat yourself becomes the blueprint for how others believe they should be treated. If you speak with self-compassion, you create space for others to do the same. If you model resilience, not perfection, you teach that it is human to stumble and holy to rise. The ripple effect of your becoming is more powerful than you know. Never underestimate the influence of an authentic life. In workplaces and organizations, we must also challenge the behaviors that masquerade as professionalism, but are rooted in fear, performative busyness, emotional suppression, perfectionism, and the silencing of dissent. To be a better team, a better company, a better leader, we must dare to humanize our environments. We must reward honesty over hustle, well-being over burnout, curiosity over control. When we create cultures where people can bring their full selves, we do not sacrifice productivity, we unlock innovation. We do not invite chaos, we cultivate creativity. It starts with individuals, but it transforms institutions. And for the students, the dreamers, the seekers, understand that success is not a destination, it is a practice. It is the daily decision to show up, to try again, to listen, to grow. Do not measure yourself against anyone's journey, but your own. Do not let failure become your identity. Let it become your teacher. Learn the lesson, but do not internalize the shame, and never confuse a chapter with the whole story. You are allowed to revise. You are allowed to return stronger. We live in a world that moves fast, but do not let the speed of the world dictate the pace of your becoming. Slow down, feel deeply, choose deliberately. The soul does not bloom on command, it unfolds in its own divine timing. Honor that rhythm, and trust that even when you cannot see the fruit, the roots are growing deep. There will be temptations, always, to revert, to numb, to perform, to settle. But every time you choose integrity over image, healing over hiding, courage over comfort, you are reborn. Do not take that lightly. It is sacred. It is holy. It is the work of the soul. So as you move forward from this moment, I invite you, no, I dare you, to remember who you are beneath the fear. To release the 7 habits that dim your light, strangle your growth, and steal your peace. To walk boldly in your truth, even when your voice shakes. To trust that you were made not to mimic, but to manifest. You are not random. You are not disposable. You are a necessary note in the song of this world. And the world will be less whole, less radiant, less just, without your full, unashamed presence. You will not do this perfectly. You are not meant to, but you must do it with sincerity. You must do it with love. You must do it again and again, even when you forget why you started. Because every time you return to yourself, you get closer to freedom. And freedom, true, inner, luminous freedom, is what we're after, isn't it? So take this message, not as instruction but as invitation. Let it settle in your bones. Let it travel with you in silence and in noise, in stillness and in motion. May it awaken your remembrance. May it embolden your resolve. And may you know, beyond doubt, that the better you is not somewhere far off. It is already within, waiting for you to say yes. Yes to growth. Yes to truth. Yes to the unrepeatable miracle of you. Keep saying yes. Let the becoming begin. Let us not pretend that the road ahead is paved smooth simply because we now see it more clearly. Truth, once acknowledged, demands something of us. It calls forth our action, our correction, our transformation. And that calling is rarely convenient. It arrives in the middle of our comfort, knocking gently at first, then louder, until we have no choice but to open the door. The beauty and the burden of choosing to be better lies in the very fact that it is a choice we must make repeatedly, not once, not twice, but daily, in the quiet corners of our lives, where no audience watches. When you realize that the act of becoming is not a destination, but a way of being, you stop waiting for a milestone to tell you you're enough. You begin to trust that every breath you take in alignment with who you are meant to be is already success. And what then does it mean to live as a better version of yourself? It does not mean unbroken, flawless, or forever strong. It means conscious. It means you no longer let your wounds choose your words. It means you pause before you pass on the pain you've carried for too long. It means you no longer let fear be the author of your decisions. And it means you take accountability, not as punishment, but as empowerment. Because when you accept that you are responsible for your behaviors, your reactions, your patterns, you also claim the power to change them. That is where freedom begins, not in being perfect, but in being willing. There is immense strength in softness. I do not speak of fragility. I speak of the kind of strength that does not need to shout to be heard, the strength that listens, that empathizes, that chooses love, where bitterness would be easier, That forgives where resentment feels justified. That shows up, not armored in ego, but wrapped in purpose. The better version of you does not need to dominate, manipulate, or impress. It needs only to be true. Because truth, when lived without apology, radiates its own authority. It does not ask permission. It does not seek validation. It simply is. And that is enough. To become better, we must also honor rest. We must unlearn the false religion of exhaustion. Too many of us equate our worth with our productivity, our value with our usefulness. But you are not a machine. You are a living, breathing, sacred being. Rest is not laziness. It is not failure. It is resistance. It is how we return to ourselves when the world has pulled us in too many directions. The better you knows when to step back, when to nourish, to reflect, to listen to the language of your body. You cannot build a sustainable self on the scaffolding of burnout. You must build from wholeness. And wholeness requires restoration. Let us also speak of joy, not fleeting pleasure, not distraction, but deep, sustaining joy. The kind that sings quietly beneath grief, the kind that holds your hand when nothing else makes sense. Becoming better is not a solemn march. It is also a dance, a laughter, a remembering of delight. Because joy is not frivolous, it is fuel. It gives us the energy to keep going, the clarity to see beauty even in struggle. A better you does not postpone joy until everything is perfect. A better you knows that joy can be a form of resilience, a decision to shine in spite of. We cannot avoid the truth that becoming better sometimes means saying goodbye. Goodbye to environments that stunt our growth. Goodbye to relationships built on our silence. Goodbye to versions of ourselves that once protected us, but now confine us. It is not betrayal to outgrow. It is not cruel to create distance where peace cannot breathe. The better you is discerning. It does not cling to what was when what can be is calling. Release is part of becoming. Letting go is not weakness. It is wisdom. And yet as we rise into our better selves, let us remain humble. Let us remember that we too are capable of causing harm. That we too are students in this lifelong classroom. The better you does not seek to be above others, but beside them, in compassion, in learning, in shared humanity. Pride is a poor substitute for purpose. Status is a shallow shadow of significance. What we need more than ever are people rooted in something deeper than ego. People who lead with heart, who listen before they speak, who ask better questions instead of offering quick answers. Let your becoming be grounded in humility, or it will collapse under the weight of its own performance. Now I say to you, hold fast to integrity. It is not always the easiest road, but it is the one that will let you sleep at night with peace. The better you does not cheat the process, does not cut corners, does not say what is popular at the cost of what is right. Integrity is not a performance, it is a practice. It is built in moments no one sees, when you honor your word, when you speak truth in rooms where silence is safer, when you treat others with respect not because they demand it, but because your character commands it. A life of integrity may not always be rewarded in the ways the world recognizes, but it is rewarded in the ways that matter, in self-respect, in legacy, in peace of mind. Be mindful of your language. Words are not just sounds, they are seeds. They grow in the hearts of others. They echo long after they are spoken. The better you speaks with intention, not perfection but purpose. Let your words build bridges, not walls. Let them illuminate, not confuse. Speak truth, yes, but let it be wrapped in compassion. Speak power, yes, but let it be anchored in listening. Speak up, not to silence others, but to stand with those who've gone unheard. Language is a tool of transformation. Use it wisely. Let us never forget the power of community in this process. No one becomes better alone. We need mirrors to see ourselves clearly. We need hands to hold us when we falter. We need voices to remind us of who we are when we forget. The better you does not isolate, it connects, builds, uplifts. Seek spaces where growth is nurtured, not envied. Where truth is welcomed, not weaponized. where you are seen, not only for who you are, but for who you are becoming. Be that space for others too. Be the soil where another soul finds room to bloom. And yes, there will be setbacks. You will make mistakes. You will forget your lessons and repeat patterns. But that does not undo your progress. The better you is not a straight line, it is a spiral. You come back to the same place with deeper understanding, more compassion, more wisdom. Be patient with your process. What matters is not that you never fall, but that you fall forward toward your truth, toward your healing, toward the person you are destined to be. So today and every day that follows, I invite you to recommit, not to the idea of perfection but to the reality of progress. Recommit to choosing truth over convenience. Recommit to doing the hard work of self-inquiry. Recommit to loving yourself enough to change. The journey to a better you is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Because on the other side of those choices lies a life of greater meaning, deeper joy, and unshakable peace. You do not need permission to begin. You do not need a guarantee of the outcome. You only need the willingness to take the next step. So take it. Stumble if you must. Crawl if you must. But do not stop. The world is waiting on your courage. Your family is waiting on your clarity. Your soul is waiting on your yes. Yes to growth. Yes to grace. Yes to the bold, brave, beautiful work of becoming. Keep saying yes. Let the becoming deepen. Let the becoming expand. Let the becoming bloom. And when you feel weary, because you will, as all who travel the road of becoming do, let that weariness not deceive you into thinking you've lost your way. Weariness is not a warning, it is evidence. Evidence that you are stretching, reaching, shedding. Growth is exhausting because it is sacred work. It pulls from the roots. It demands the unlearning of all that once kept you small. Do not let that tiredness convince you that you are not enough. Do not mistake fatigue for failure. Let it instead be the drumbeat beneath your transformation. A reminder that what you are building is real and worthy and necessary. Pause if you must. Rest, replenish, remember. But do not turn back. The old version of you may call out in familiar tones, may sing lullabies of certainty and comfort. But your spirit was not made to live in yesterday. You were made to rise. There is no blueprint for becoming better. No step-by-step plan to follow with mechanical precision. The truth is, it will be messy. It will require that you listen deeply, not just to the voices around you, but to the whisper within, the one that knows what alignment feels like. That whisper is not loud, but it is wise. It speaks through intuition, through restlessness, through the quiet ache that comes when you are living beneath your potential. The better you listens to that inner truth, even when it contradicts the expectations of others. Especially then. Because to live a life dictated by someone else's script is to abandon your own voice. And you, my friend, were born with a voice meant to change something. Let me remind you now of the grace that undergirds all of this. Grace is what allows you to begin again, to forgive yourself for the times you didn't know better, and the times you did but chose otherwise. Grace is the hand that reaches for you, even when you've turned your back on yourself. It is not earned by performance or perfection. It is the quiet constant waiting for your return. Let that grace carry you when guilt tries to drag you down. Let it steady you when shame whispers that you are too broken to begin again. You are not broken. You are breaking open, and there is a profound difference. This path we walk is not merely for the sake of individual betterment. It is a ripple sent outward. When you commit to becoming better, you alter the soil from which communities grow. You break the chains of cycles long inherited. You model what is possible. This is not just personal work. It is communal healing. It is cultural restoration. It is the long and patient labor of building a world where wholeness is more than a luxury, where dignity is not earned but honored by default. So do not underestimate what your personal integrity births in the collective consciousness. One honest voice can echo into 1,000 lives. One act of courage can plant a forest of freedom. And if you are wondering whether your work matters, whether your choice to be different, gentler, more honest, more accountable, is seen or felt, let me assure you, it is, even if no one says it. Even if the world around you seems unchanged, the better you changes the atmosphere. It lifts, it softens, it challenges. Your choice to live with intention, to speak with kindness, to uphold justice, to protect your peace, these are not small things. They are revolutionary in their quiet persistence. We live in a time where noise is mistaken for influence. But your power does not lie in how loud you are. It lies in your depth, your ability to hold contradiction, to stay rooted in compassion when the world asks for outrage, to walk in truth when lies are rewarded, to love where cynicism has become currency. That is your power. That is the mark of a better you. And even now, as I speak these words,